On today's podcast, we're going to be talking briefly about rack safety, so stay tuned. Welcome to Warehouse Safety Tips. You can find the show notes to each episode, links to information mentioned on the podcast, the social media platforms we're on, and anything else related to the podcast at warehousesafetytips.com. Now, if you're a seasoned podcast listener, this podcast is going to be different from most you listen to. It's based around exactly what the name implies, warehouse safety tips. And since the people in this industry are busy, we know that time is money and each episode will be as short and to the point as possible. And now, with all of that out of the way, let's get to the podcast. If you have tow or lift trucks at your facility, it's almost certain that you have racks to store items. And that means you have, or at least should have, safety rules to follow within those racks. Those rules are put in place to help you and your coworkers be safe, organized, and productive. And when working within those racks, you really need to keep your head on a swivel. You have potential hazards all around you from all angles, and it's not just yourself you need to be concerned about. Be aware of people walking in and around your racks. And speaking of your head, as always, it should be covered with all the safety requirements that your facility has in place, including, but not limited to, hearing protection, eye protection, and a hard hat. Other safety gear might include steel-toed boots and breathing protection as well. Again, just follow whatever safety requirements your facility has in place. Now that you have the right equipment, know the safety areas of your racks. These are going to be designated with floor markings or signs. And as always, be on the lookout for things that have changed or been updated so that you're always aware of the most up-to-date safety markings. And it's not just the safety markings that you need to pay attention to. Always pay attention to the racks, inspect them, and know that the racks, products, and identifications are all in great shape. The slightest damage in the right place can cause an entire rack to collapse, and in many cases, that'll cause a domino effect that can take out other racks with it. In reference to these products, assuring loads of proper weight and placement in their spots is of the utmost importance. And last but not least, the way that you identify placement of product needs to be easy to see and scan. This way your coworkers will be able to identify the proper identity of where everything is at all times. We just mentioned proper weight of products within racks. Knowing the maximum weight of each area is vital as well for safety. Generally, heavy items are stored in the lowest to the ground areas and decrease in weight as they go higher. Putting something heavier in racks that can't support it is a recipe for trouble and should be avoided at all costs. And when placing products on uppermost racks, it's vital that you know and are consistently aware of your clearance. Roofs, sprinkler heads, lighting, and cameras can be easily damaged by not paying attention. And in the case of sprinkler systems, you can cause excessive damage and downtime if accidentally hit. Last but certainly not least, if you don't know something or something seems incorrect, consult a supervisor. Before continuing on with our podcast, here's a word from one of our sponsors. If you've ever been to or worked in a warehouse, you know just how important safety is to both management and staff. It's almost impossible to go 10 steps without seeing safety tape, angles, signs, and or products. It's these items that show us how to be safe and avoid danger in the workplace. And if you're looking for the best products to make this happen, look no further than Mighty Line. Mighty Line floor signs and floor markings offer the best industrial products out there. Go to mightylinetape.com/safety tips to request a sample pack of their incredible safety signs and floor markings. What makes Mighty Line the superior choice in keeping your facility safe and productive? Mighty Line tape is the strongest floor tape on the market and has a beveled edge that increases durability for industrial brush scrubbers, forklifts, and heavy industrial wheel traffic. Mighty Line's peel and stick backing allows easy installation and removal. You can apply and reapply it during installation and it leaves no sticky residue should you need to remove it. This allows the ability to change workflow areas quickly and easily and not have the downtime that's associated with painting or using floor markings that leave behind a mess when you remove them. Mighty Line tape is 7 times thicker than the average safety floor tape. Mighty Line signs and markings come in a variety of shapes, colors and sizes, and if we don't have what you're looking for in stock, there's a good chance we can customize it and allow you to find exactly what you're looking for. Mighty Line offers a limited 3-year warranty on their floor signs and markings. And last but certainly not least, Mighty Line's products are patented and proudly made in the USA. We're proud to have Mighty Line as the official floor sign and floor marking company for the Warehouse Safety Tips podcast and site. Again, go to mightylinetate.com/safety tips to request a sample pack of their incredible safety signs and floor markings. Now, back to the podcast. As mentioned in the first part of this podcast, when you have racks, it's also likely that you have tow or lift trucks, and part of rack safety is that they have their own rules as well. Before getting on or operating a tow or lift truck, be certain that you've taken and know all the required safety trainings to operate the equipment within the racks. Although most equipment has safety settings in place that won't allow you to start or operate them without having the proper equipment attached, it's still your responsibility to assure that you're wearing the proper safety belts and or harnesses. And while operating equipment and or via walking around before a shift, make sure the aisles and the areas in front and backs of the racks are clear of dirt and debris. Dragging debris under your tow or lift truck can damage both the truck and the floor markings. And even though it should be common sense, be sure to know and obey speed limits in and around racks. Now, this was covered in the first part of the podcast in reference to placement, but making sure that you get products to their proper placement, you need to be concerned with more than clearance. You need to know the maximum height that you're able to go before raising your tow or lift truck. Again, know your clearance. Knowing the proper safety load is also important, both in transport and storage, because when you're loading materials, you need to make sure that the heavier items are placed equally and or centered at the bottom of your load, and that you add lighter items as you get higher. And make sure that your load is secure from shifting or flying off during acceleration, bumps, and or sudden stops. Now, we just covered weight distribution, but it's especially important when extended vertically. Your tow or your lift truck is extremely heavy, but when your mass is high or fully extended, safety concerns increase. And speaking of being fully extended, another area you need to be concerned with is your battery or your fuel. You don't want to find yourself in mid-rack or fully extended and run out of power. In addition to power, you want to make sure the condition of both batteries and tanks are in great condition. Charging and fueling areas are notorious for misuse and abuse. Make sure you treat this and all areas as if they were your own. Pallet conditions are extremely important to pay attention to. Be sure to only use pallets that are in great shape and don't have any objects sticking out from the edges, the top, or the bottom. By doing this, you're going to know that you've done your best to assure that the product is sitting on a secure base, the rack in your facility are not being damaged from the pallets sitting on them, floor markings aren't being torn up or worn due to people going across them with those objects in them, and last but certainly not least, staff doesn't run the risk of being injured from objects sticking out. And as mentioned in the first part of this podcast, again, if you don't know something or something seems incorrect, consult a supervisor. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Warehouse Safety Tips. If you visit warehousesafetytips.com, you'll find the show notes for this episode and access to all of our blog posts, previous podcasts, advertiser information, and much more. Thank you for listening to Warehouse Safety Tips, and have a safe day.